Welcome to Vinyl Verdict. I'm Bell.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Jonathan Horst.
That's right. We have a guest, friend of the podcast, former colleague of MAC Address fame, Shaw Spotlight extraordinaire, newscaster, Jonathan Horst.
Newscaster, more like community access producer.
I watched your video on the bridge one day.
Which bridge?
Isn't there,
He's done so many bridge videos.
That you could, like, it used to be a road bridge.
That's right. There was a bridge in the Fraser Canyon. I did a story on it. You can't go over the bridge anymore. It's called the Alexandra Suspension Bridge. Really cool.
What is that Miata video that I love so much?
Oh my god, that was like one of my second car reviews that I ever did in broadcast school. And I just did a review on the 2011 Mazda MX-5.
It is an
Great
awesome
time.
video. If you can find it by Horsepower, because his last name
is on there.
Horst.
It's very embarrassing.
So
I am
good.
such a little boy.
He runs to the car and it makes me laugh every time. He's like, and that's why this is a great car. And then he runs around the front of it to get it and peel off. It is so funny.
Then I peeled out, and then that location we shot that section in, they like dug out the ditch, so you can't go there anymore after I did that.
A relic of the past, as well as this album is kind of a relic to the past.
Sort
Blue
of.
Desert by Jack J.
What do you mean relic
His
to the past?
2024 album is a relic of the past.
Yeah, it sounds retro. It sounds like the past, but it was released just in November of 2024. Jonathan, I picked this for you,
Thank
but
you.
why?
Okay,
You
so
picked
there's a backstory to this album because my friend Mike sent me a text message, and he said, "This is my favorite album cover art of the year." Can't get in.
We'll talk more about the album cover at the end to keep
Oh,
it
at
peeled.
the end?
Yeah, we got to keep them
Yeah,
waiting.
you can talk about it, though.
I mean, it is a good cover,
They also
but we
do
can
see
talk
it on
about it at the
screen.
end.
They
But
see it
I
on
remember
screen.
replying, being like, "The dust repeats," because there's like kind of a dust kind of flourish in the graphic
Oh.
design, and I'm like, it's the same. But so I was like a little bit like, what is he sending me? But then I listened to the song, and I was hooked. And it was just the like 3 preview songs. Now, Mel and I worked in the same office space at the office back in the day.
The Fishbowl.
And we called it the Fishbowl, and music was a major component and sometimes a source of tension.
Listen,
in
I
that
love
space.
90s pop hits, and I'll put them on every day.
And was it Natasha Bedingford or whatever?
Yes.
That song was on every day.
Unwritten.
2000s pop hits.
Yeah. Well, we had a good variety, I'll admit. It was very good. And so I put it on, and it was a hit right away. Even just the first 3 songs before the album got released. So I was waiting on pins and needles for the album to come out, and then waiting on pins and needles for him to perform. He had like a tour in like Europe before he performed in his local hometown of Vancouver, British Columbia.
That's right. Jack Judson, otherwise known as Jack J, is an Australian musician based in Vancouver. I'd say he's more of a Vancouver musician based or from Australia, because he should be Vancouver first. We claim him.
Well, I mean, they did advertise the concert as like in a rare like hometown performance. So I think he very much has become the prototypical. Maybe not prototypical, just the typical Austro-Canadian.
Yeah, he moved at age 18, and I was expecting from listening to the songs that he would have an Australian accent, but when he was talking at the show, I was like, it
was a very slight.
It was like barely noticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I found one interview. It was actually just an intro to an interview because it was paywalled, and I wasn't going to pay, unfortunately, to learn more about Jack J.
Listen, maybe we will once we start making money off this thing.
Amen. But in it said that his label, Mood Hut, the label he's under at least, has a no interviews policy, which is a very interesting policy to have, which is why there was so little to learn about Mr. Judson himself.
That explains why he has so many listens.
I don't know how many he has, but I assume that you're being facetious.
That's really interesting.
It's his label. He runs the label, doesn't he?
There's a co-founder, I believe.
Yeah, it's pretty well known because even in the Pitchfork review for this album, they were like Mood Hut, like they mentioned Mood Hut, which I thought was very interesting. In another very tiny interview I saw that was for his 2022 album release, Opening the Door, he had a concert in Richmond, which had been his first in 10 years. And he'd been traveling around and DJing before that, not really doing his own music thing, which is pretty cool. I would love for Mood Hut to change their policy so we can learn more about Jack J. Or he should come on the podcast and talk about records. That would also be cool.
That would be cool. So my friend Mike, who introduced me to the album, is actually friends with Jack J.
Is he?
Well, I guess so. I mean, this is we had a bit of a debate on this, and it's a bit of a whole situation. But when do you guys consider a friend? Is a question I do have. But anyway, he knows Jack J. They hung out back in the day, and Mike was telling me how he's kind of part of the Vancouver music scene. And I guess Mike was a bit of part of that back in the day as well. and I have nothing more to add.
Yeah,
I thought there was a thought going.
I kind of arranged this episode and forced Jonathan to pick this album because he got me back into this. What, like September, October is when the singles dropped.
It was mid-October.
Yeah,
and then the album came out,
and I loved
November.
it. Came out in November, loved it, and then the tour got announced sometime in January, or the album release party here in Vancouver, and we actually just went and saw it 3 days ago.
Yeah,
like it was on Saturday. It's Tuesday. I was like, we gotta go.
Yeah,
the tickets were $14 at least when we bought them. I was like, this is crazy, so local, and it was good. It's definitely an indie release. He's got 2 albums, and you can tell in some of the vocal performances that he's a very good music producer and a good singer. And live it maybe stands out a bit more, but I think on this album it actually works really well as it makes it feel a bit more genuine. But this is definitely one of those lives or dies by the vibe albums, where if you don't like the vibe of the first couple songs, you probably won't like anything on the album, as it's pretty familiar throughout the entire runtime, which I don't have a problem with, as I love the vibe. I think it fades perfectly into the background if you want to, or it rewards you for listening and engaging with it. It's also great to just get enhanced to and listen. There's some killer sax solos. There's fun guitar riffs. It pans back and forth between the stereo speakers and stuff. Like, it's a lot of fun to listen to. But if you're not into that, you're not going to like any of the 33 minutes of this album. I'm fairly confident in saying. But Jamie, what did you think?
I liked it because it sounds like 30 years ago. Or maybe more.
What genre would you say this is?
This is I was wondering the same question. Yeah, Sophistopop, it says on the Bandcamp website.
What is Sophistopop?
I like the sound of
Me too.
Sophistopop is probably best exemplified by the artist, I think it's pronounced Sade. She made the song Smooth Operator.
Sade.
Sade? It's Sade?
Yeah.
Man, I've never heard it out loud.
Sade.
Smooth Operator.
Smooth Operator. And it's like kind of...
Her one song is on Floral Shop.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. So it is about that kind of ethereal synth feels plus groovy, like kind of groovy pop based music. It's one of a very pretentious name. I feel like it's like a IDM is also a very pretentious genre name.
What is IDM?
Intelligent dance music.
Wow.
Yeah. And calling it Sophistopop is like you already had art pop, but
I understand what it is. It's sort of like it sort of sounds synth poppy and sort of.
Yeah, that was gonna be like new wave.
Yeah, they described it as new wavy, and I was like, I guess so. It's something wave.
I was like, it's vaporwavy, but like not, because it's not that old or like.
Someone also described it as sounding like early Moby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
sure. It's this album.
It's no. The genre.
Oh, the genre of
Sophistopop.
Sophistopop. Okay.
It's kind of that it takes some of the like weirdness. It's more refined synth sounds that are more lush and less experimental than say like a lot of new wave and like less of that punk influence, and moves it towards more of a soul and jazzy influence.
Sure. There's a lot of saxophones and stuff. Yeah.
Sounds about right to me.
Yeah. So as soon as you say ethereal, that's one of my tropes in this podcast, is that I love
saying ethereal.
Saying and I actually somehow don't have it in here because I couldn't think of the words. I have ghostly in here a lot, but I love the etherealness of it. What did you think of the album, Adam?
It's interesting that you say like, oh, if you don't like this, you won't like any of this 33 minutes of the album, because I feel like it goes down so smooth that it would be hard to dislike this album.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very, very accessible.
Middle of the road. How many times have we mentioned that in the last month?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it middle of the road because it's not.
It's not that accessible.
It's not. Well, it's not trying to be hit a trend of today.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It has a specific sound.
It's trying to be a trend from yesterday.
Well, it's interesting because it is kind of like it takes a lot of the kind of vaporwave aesthetics, those like revamped 80s synths.
Even the cover itself,
chunky ass sounding drums.
Like this reminded me a lot of some of the poppier stuff from Death's Dynamic Shroud.
Oh yeah, great band.
Yeah, just because of like the tones. Like some of these, I was like, I don't know what the keyboard is. I don't know how I got the synth sound, but I have heard it on other recordings, and I want to know what it is so I can steal it and use it.
It's got that 80s drum sound, sort of.
Yeah, super reverbed, like gate reverb on drums.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool. I think that for me, the first half of the album is a little bit stronger because
Agreed.
I think that one of the things that this album struggles with in general is developing its ideas. It brings a lot of really cool ideas to the table and will just sit there with them. And especially on the back half with the shorter songs, some of that results in very disappointing compositions overall, while having pretty exquisite production across the board. But yeah, I really enjoyed this album. It's a damn good vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, talking about the instruments, it's interesting because we saw them live, and yet still I was like, I know that they plucked a violin for this sound, but I'm still not sure that's what it is. Like, I've seen it, but it does sound so... It's just such an interesting sound that it's like, it's really hard to place a lot of things.
Yeah, there was not... I don't think there was an instrument on stage that wasn't affected with... didn't have an effects pedal.
Oh yeah, it was so dope.
Right, like everything had some sort of filtering to create the sound, and they sounded really good live.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really good sounding show.
They had some tech issues, which is a bummer, but nothing that dramatically like made me go, this stinks. Also, good crowd. It made me really want to listen to this in a more dancey setting. Like when you're all facing the same direction, it feels weird versus like this in a club would be fun. It's just like light enough that it doesn't feel too intense. It's just a total blast to listen to. Really enjoyed this album. Any final thoughts before you give it one last listen?
Well, okay, so about the vaporwave thing, my vibe I got, and it especially came out when I was at the show, was like, it feels like the source material of what vaporwave was inspired off of. So like for me, like I got this like vision of like, oh, I would love to get this on cassette, put it in my Mercedes-Benz SL500, and drive around the palm tree lined boulevards of LA at dusk in 1991.
Oh, like Outrun vibes.
Like it's like but in real life, like, as you know, like, because a lot of vaporwave is very
still
like
very
kind
grounded.
of artistic and like kind of graphical.
Mhm.
This is like, it'd be like, this is like a live action rendition of that, if that makes any sense. If the
Yeah, it feels very grounded in reality versus, like you said, vaporwave is really trying to have like this retro futurism digital. Like it is it's hard to kind of describe. Look at the cover of Floral Shop, and that's what vaporwave is trying to be versus like genuinely being in that era at that time. It's not trying to evoke nostalgia. It just is nostalgic. Question mark?
Sort of, yeah.
Fun fact: this is the first vinyl I've ever bought. I bought it at the show, and I listened to it at my parents' house, and I listened to it on their record player, and it sounds very good on vinyl.
Yeah,
and
it does actually.
It's interesting because I was like, I also bought the digital version of it, and I was like, just looking at the spectrograph, and I'm like, oh, this is like compressed. It's not using all of the kilohertz here, and
You
I'm like,
pulled up the spectrograph.
yeah, just to see. Well, it's like a bit of a cheat to know if something's been encoded before or not, and so it feels like it was like mixed for vinyl. It's got even that still the analog feel, even in the digital version as well.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, I hate to admit this because I'm a digital first person. It's a vinyl.
Heck yeah, we love to hear it, especially because that means I just want to go and listen to more stuff on Mood Hut. Like if they're going to put in the effort to make it sound good, that's great. Versus I'll bring it up every time. Love Begonia, awful first record. The second one is better. I will report. I've listened to it. I own it. It's great. First one, awful. Half volume. Not good.
Yeah,
Not good
it's
at all.
not mixed at all. No.
I mean, it's. I wonder if they did a separate master, because one thing I noted from this is that it's not a very dynamic. Like it's very it's quite compressed. Like not
You have
digitally, but like
to fit it in a vinyl.
No, but I mean, like you can have a lot. You can still have a level of dynamics that's greater than what's present on the digital version
Right.
of this album. I know that vinyl is more limited in its dynamics in general, but this is like very much like it. The quiet parts are quiet. Are in feeling but not in volume, which I think is one of my only issues with the production, is that it's all so the same volume for so much of the album, which is an aesthetic choice.
And so it's the loudness war without the loudness.
Kind of, but that's like almost that's taking my point and missing it.
Yeah, I agree. They play with some stuff at the end of the album, and then by then it's over. It's like, oh, okay. You don't get so much. Like when I say you kind of get rewarded for listening to it closer, you don't get rewarded that much. Whereas like I feel like In Rainbows is one, or there's some other albums where you hear like additional instruments and stuff added to the back. Even Lucy Rose, where it's like you really listen close, there's a lot kind of buried in. And this one doesn't have it, and I don't know, for me at least, that's a negative. But it is an interesting observation of like you are hearing it all. When you listen to it, you're hearing it all.
It's a very it was a very immediate album for me. Like I just was like, oh, I get this. I like this. It clicked immediately. And I will say that I think that upon, especially the back half, I started liking things more on later listens.
Mhm.
So maybe I'll like it even more after we give it one last listen.
Counting on a dime, just like they said. I was wrong. Put me at the right time, in the right way. Holiness is waiting on
The themes of loneliness and
Wrong again.
guilt.
Yeah, I love this start to the album. It feels very 90s. It makes me want to stare at a Windows 98 screensaver.
Sort of, yeah.
It's pretty, like, lyrically throughout the whole album, I'm going to mention it a couple times, but it's pretty basic and vague. But I think it works with the dreamy instrumentation. It's, again, just, like, evoking things. Like, this is about him ending a relationship and regretting it, maybe. I'm not sure. But it feels relatable while not saying anything, so it just lets you get lost in the music. And, again, kind of be guided by some of the ideas without needing to, like, hold your hand or, like, tell you this, you should be feeling this way. Which I think works.
Yeah, it definitely reminded me of songs that were played on the radio at the tail end in the 90s.
Is that earlier than the tail? This is like a early 90s
This is like a late 80s,
electric
early
organ.
90s is what I feel, yeah.
Yeah, not Windows 98. This is Windows 3.1, man.
I wasn't live. So
I don't know, because
I don't know. Windows 3.1 went. This is more Windows. This is more Windows
Brian
95.
Eno did Windows 95.
I'm just thinking of the fish screensaver. That's all I want.
The fish one.
Yeah.
I don't remember. The like aquarium one.
Yeah, the aquarium one.
I don't remember that.
Wow.
This is like
that's
this
like
is
30
the
years
weird,
old now.
The Windows 3.1 one is those lines that like change the shape. Do you remember what I'm talking
You mean
about?
pipes?
3D pipes.
No, before- it's like the
you're-
predecessor to the
you're
pipes.
You're thinking Mystify.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
that
That's
one,
probably the
Mystify.
one.
Great. That should be the name of this song.
Yeah, there's Flying Windows, Mystify.
This is my favorite song on the album, I have to say.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would say it's up there for me. It's going to be one of the one last listen songs. Like, it's very accessible. I like the self-doubt in the lyrics where he wonders if he's wasted his time and then says it wasn't meant to be before immediately being like, or was it? It sounds like me after every decision I ever make. I'm like, Ma, I guess it wasn't meant to be. Or it wasn't. I guess I've messed it up forever. Well, that's too bad.
It'd be like that sometimes.
I love the bongos throughout and the tasteful electric guitar that comes in ever so often with a sweet little echoey riff, followed by some acoustic guitar. It's a really cool mix of instruments throughout. I mean, the whole thing, but this song especially.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It's got that "Show Me Love" synth, you know? Do you know that song? That do 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 do.
Oh, yeah.
From Break
That
My
song
Soul.
rocks. It does.
Oh, okay. Now I
It's
know.
like a
Sound-
deeper version of that synth.
It's got that same
The
very
organ.
similar synth sound.
The organ, the like electronic organ.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
It was used a lot in like
Yeah, no. So that's like
We actually looked. Remember, we did all that. I had to hum to my phone to
Oh,
find that
yeah.
song. Do 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 do. That was such a funny.
my memory of
Wow.
that sound is from Live and Joy's Dreamer, which was on Dance Mix 95, which is a classic of my childhood.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a cool mix of that kind of throwback synth, throwback production with a very cool, kind of like a break. Not so. It's a kind of a. It's not a break beat.
I don't.
It's
ask
like
me,
a
I don't
step
know.
beat. It's like I don't know the exact term. It's not a break beat, but it's very retro. I imagine somebody running through a city with a blue filter and tilted Dutch angles
Oh,
for a
yeah.
commercial for some sort of transit system.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it.
Again, that's late 90s stuff.
Yeah. And it's very groovy. It's that vaporwave, but it's greater sense of melody and less ambient. And the reverbed saxophone is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was the best part. This will be probably the last time I bring up the live performance. That was the best part of the live performance. That sax player, amazing, man. I was like, I think I have it down in one of the songs. It's like, I wish that there was more sax. It's used very tastefully, which is sparingly. But maybe just go wild, man. It's great.
Yeah,
Well, it's the same saxophonist that performed at the show as the one in the album.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And also apparently is the subject of the next song on the
That's
album.
right.
What?
Yeah. That's what he said at the
Foolish Man.
concert.
He did say it at the concert, and Linda Fox, the saxophonist, was really grooving to "Foolish Man" at the concert. It was like you could like tell
like,
it was
"Yeah,
his favorite
this
song.
is about me.
I'm a damn fool. Hell yeah.
Well, hey, let's talk "Foolish Man."
We got a saxophone.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
This song has more of a focus on the vocals for longer chunks of time, and it's all right. Like I said, he's not the strongest singer, but it is a vibe.
Yeah.
And again, there's not much going on lyrically with things being pretty basic, but I think it's more of a fault on this one because it's repeated a bit more.
Yeah.
And then you're really focused on what he's saying because when he starts singing, everything, like a lot of the instruments drop out, and you're just like, okay, he's a foolish man.
And his and the lyrics suck.
Yeah, he's a fool. He's a fool. He wasn't my man. He's a foolish man. He's not my man. He's a foolish man. I'm like, okay, I get it.
He's like,
This guy sucks.
can't make. It's just like such a kind of boring rhyme schemes too. I don't mind repetitiveness, but he's also like, I don't think he specifically does this, but he goes like, "What need the time, or else we'll run out of rhymes." And I'm like, really?
Yeah,
Like,
across the
it's-
floor, would not explore, hang up twice. He wouldn't act nice.
Like,
It's
yeah, it's like, come on, man. He's kind of got what's his name? Damon Albarn aspect to his voice. Of like Damon Albarn's softer register. Some of the more low key Gorillaz tracks I hear.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
Damon Albarn of the Gorillaz or Blur.
Wow.
I love Damon Albarn. I have a couple of his albums.
The
his
Gorillaz
old
had
ones.
a song
Don't
in
agree.
an iPod ad.
Yeah, I'm not.
You
picking-
actually don't know Blur?
No, I know Blur, yes, but
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to like
neither
list
of them
out
have
the band
yes,
the
a
names
lot
of the
slow
band
songs.
members.
I'll choose Damon Albarn's Everyday Robots or his new album One Day because I actually really like Damon Albarn. I kind of guess I hear it, but I would be forcing it. I don't think I would ever come to that conclusion on my own. But again, I listen to a lot of his music, his solo music.
Yeah, you might be so familiar.
Yeah, exactly. It's too far gone.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jamie?
Oh, this is a great song. The use of saxophone is very tasteful and fun. That little saxophone outro at the end. Oh, so good. So good. And it's got a little synth thing that I like.
I love that little sense of do do do.
Yeah, that synth riff is so good.
It's like, man, I would love just a song where they go buck wild with one of the instruments because it's all very reserved, and I think like it's good that it is.
Yeah.
But I would love one song where any of the instruments go buck wild.
The concert was desperate for a jam.
Oh,
You
they
know,
were like,
it-
it's like they wanted to.
Like I was desperate to hear like the sax solo go off, the bongo player go off. Like you're live, have fun with the tracks.
Yeah, the guitar player is awesome.
Yeah.
And then they did not do anything beyond what is on the album, which is fine. It's an album release party, but
Yeah.
And to be fair, I think Jack mentioned like this was an like the 6-piece band was an experiment. I did find a
Yeah.
recording of a performance he did in like December in Germany, and it was like just him.
Yeah, I don't think he
And a
usually performs
sampler.
with a band.
So this is like
It was
this was like a
good.
new thing, and it was like it
they
was
were
quite
really, really good. They
yeah.
were all tight. They were
Yeah.
just very, very minimal errors. And I think a normal person wouldn't know them versus someone who plays instruments and reviews music for a living. Subscribe to our Patreon.
I could I could see why he wouldn't branch out. The kick on this is I don't like the kick drum on this track. It's got like the slightest bit too much click for me, and that's the biggest nitpick. Other than that, it's a. I said that I don't like the lyrics. The vocals are fine, but it's a great song.
100%.
Like I will not. Don't let any of those complaints keep you from listening to this.
So
track.
this song was released actually as a single back in June of 2023, and part of me
Oh, wow.
wonders if it was like the kind of the catalyst for this project. And to some degree, with that in mind, it does feel a little different. I don't know if it's just me projecting some sort of thing on it, but it does like feel a little different from the rest of the album, because like a lot of the albums, like a lot of internalized, he's like singing about himself, whereas this song's about someone else.
That's
And I
true.
initially thought it was like him singing about himself kind of in the third person. But then, you know, at the concert when he revealed it's actually about the saxophonist, it's just kind of an interesting thing that it feels like it feels like a good catalyst for, I guess, this album of, you know,
That's a great observation.
About,
I never
like,
noticed.
okay, so this man's a foolish man. How have I been a foolish man? And then the rest of the songs, which kind of talk about this like confused dealing with relationships and stuff like that and the guilt and all that, if that's sort of a continuation on that idea. And then have you guys seen the music video?
No.
No.
Oh, pretty good actually. I really enjoyed it. They like filmed it with like an old 80s tube camera in like a dank Vancouver alley, and the camera's like angled down so that you just see the like reflections of like the wet pavement and water flowing down it, and then some like ladies singing into a compact mirror. facing the camera, and it's just got some cool 80s
Kinda
vibes. So
neat.
recommend checking it out.
I could definitely see, it kind of blows my mind that this would be a catalyst, because even this kind of seems like it's about a failed relationship for this other person.
Yeah.
And then the first song on this album is about like a failed relationship, but in his life. And then that being a catalyst about thinking about in the next song, time passing, things falling to ruin, stuff like that. So great observation. That is.
And then
a
also
great
the
idea.
last song, which I'll talk. I think.
Yeah, we'll talk about in
Yeah.
half an hour. Skip forward now. But up next is Red Cloud. Man, I love this song. The first three songs, first three songs are really, really good. I love the screeching synth that comes in at a minute mark.
Oh, really?
Oh man!
See, I like that bass lick.
At the beginning,
yeah,
I really like that
man.
farting, like the farty sound.
Yeah, I like the part where he farts. Farts. And,
That's a farting.
like a,
Yeah.
you know, little
It's like a little, like deep fart synth. Great.
Jack J with the deep farts.
Even though we are a music podcast and we review music, we're still boys. We make fart jokes every once in a while. There's a lot of textures in here that scratch my brain real good, and there's a ton of stereo panning that I think is done tastefully. There are other songs on this album I don't think are done tastefully, but this one I think is done really well. It's a fun song to listen to while enhanced, and while sober, it's a touch too slow to be something I'd put on super often. But that synth, that screeching synth, would bring me back every time. I love that. I don't know what it is, but I love it.
Yeah, this one, the textures, the production, especially I love the guitar tone.
Mhm.
It's so good on this track. I will say that in his the lower range of his voice, I find combined with the droniness of the vocals can get a little grating for me. It's just not the strongest vocal performance from him, especially on the album. But man, the harmonies that come in at the back of the track are really, really great, but they're so quiet in the mix, and I really wish that he used that space to like kind of crank up the complexity, because there's all of these wonderful layers. Bring in that sort of kind of allows you to have a little bit of bombast and have it swell at the ending. This is kind of where I was coming with my complaint about the dynamics on the album, was that there's all of these, he adds these layers, but they don't feel like it's getting any bigger because there's no space in the mix or there's no actual volume increase. And so it just like, it could be so much more to me, you know?
That makes sense, especially because a lot of the vocals are double tracked. You don't notice at first that it's harmonizing, and then when you listen closer, it's like, oh, like this is really interesting. But you're not, again, kind of like I said earlier, I don't feel like as rewarded for listening close. What do you think, Jonathan?
You know, I mean, Adam makes a good point about like letting things swell. There is no swell anywhere. The lyrics of this one, I was like, what does he mean? Like, time waits for no man. What do you think that means? I mean, because that is a pretty distinct line in the song that just stands out.
I mean,
Anyone?
I feel like
Bueller?
that's a common idiom.
Is it? I never heard it.
Yeah, like
It's a common idiom?
it is.
Don't like sit on your ass, because
But I do
Time waits for
that.
no one.
because like things are gonna move whether you want it to or not. It doesn't wait for you.
True. Like Steve Miller Band
So-
said, time keeps on slipping. Slipping.
Time Waits for
Yeah.
No Man is the debut solo studio album by American rapper Rasco.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Rasco.
I don't know. I just
Like
ducked
he's
duck,
a
go,
he's a
Time
widow
Wa-
Wasco.
Oh, Rasco Flats.
Oh, I love Wasco Flats.
It's also a Rolling Stone song, Time Waits for No One.
Well,
Today
well,
you
look
learned.
at that, everyone.
Well, up next we have
You know
Down
what
the
else
Line.
Steve Miller Band said?
Oh.
Gonna reach out and grab you.
Oh, God. Abracadabra.
All right, well, Down the Line. I think this is the first like semi-miss for me. It's not super memorable. I really like the little synth line that plays between the choruses and the light ethereal effect added to the vocals, not ghostly. I also don't really know how to describe the effect. It's like delayed and slightly slowed, and it like there's like a weird like breathe between them as it phases in. It's very odd, but I like it.
Like the snare?
No, the vocals. How
His-
come like breathes in
Well,
before the second track comes
his
in?
voice sounds like it's coming from multiple directions at the same time, which is kind of a weird and cool effect at the same time. I kind of enjoyed that. I did really enjoy the chugging rhythm of
Yeah.
the song. Like the whole song kind of chugs along.
It's like a reverse reverb effect. It's
Yeah,
a
I
reverse
love
echo.
it. It's cool.
How do you reverse an echo? It happens before you say the thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
You like
Precisely.
You like echo. You play the track backwards. You echo it, and then you reverse it again, and then you play it forwards,
Gotta try
and then
it.
you have an echo at the front.
Reminds me of like a Death Eater from Harry Potter or something. It's like it sounds like it's being sucked out of somebody. It's
I
very
only
odd.
read up to the second book.
You wouldn't have heard it in the book anyways.
Yeah, J.K. Rowling was like, it's like a reverse echo. So it's like if they spoke it in reverse, and then they added an echo, and then they reversed it again.
Also, trans
Harry
people don't
said.
exist.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what you said.
Yeah,
Oh.
I agree with you. This one did not hit for me as much. I thought that the bass drums are boomy, but they don't have a much attack. I thought that there's this cool effect on the snare. You get that 80s kind of like that gunshot snare where it's like
Yeah.
but it kind of has this like double pulse where it drops out and then comes back. It's like shh, shh, which is a really cool thing to use a reverb effect for rather than making just a double hit like a ghost note on the drums. I find that the rigid beat doesn't really vibe with me, and the melody doesn't grab me as much as the melodies on the previous tracks. And then again, the layered vocals at the back of the track are cool. Like it really starts to like, it gets really, really hazy with the affected vocals at the back of the track. But the production's compressed to the point where things don't sound quiet or loud. So it just kind of feels mixed. But I really love the ending vocals. It's a really cool.
I was gonna say the only problem with this song is that the last from 3 minutes and 15 seconds on, it's amazing. I
Yeah.
love the guitar that is like it's like a Spanish guitar just like plucking away. Then you get this like church choir vocals. This thing's gonna get added back. I was like, why didn't this happen 2.5 minutes ago? Like it's so good. But what do you think, Jonathan?
I think I can appreciate the decision of saving all that stuff to the end of the songs, especially because where it is on the album, kind of near
Yeah,
the
it's
end
right
of the first
before the
side.
midway.
Yeah, and just like that is a technique I've heard a lot in songs I like, where it's kind of like da 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 da, and then the song's like da da, you know. But to be fair, this song was a little less memorable for me as the note I wrote, because it floats in this like dark kind of way. It's just floating. It felt like a dark cloud, just floating along there. But I still liked it.
Mm-hmm. Then we get Pink Shoes. Man,
I like this one.
I love this. I was like, why isn't
Really?
this longer than 1:15? And I know, spoiler alert, at the end it ends with part 2. I want more now, though.
Yeah, this was their encore.
Yeah, very odd.
This
and
was
this is
their
where I was
encore
like,
at the concert.
Yeah.
they're like plucking a violin live, but it sounds like guitar
yeah.
here. So I was like, I don't know what it is, I guess. But I love it. I don't know what it is. Just the sound of that
Like
violin or
discordant
guitar or whatever it is
chords.
The
is so good.
Sounds powerful, yeah.
Super mega vaporwave synth.
Wow, 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 wow. I'm like, oh, I love this. Lyrically, it's
it's also
nothing,
got, like,
but
I noted this at the concert because I kept bringing up Pink Floyd.
yeah.
There's like a
Who
lot of
brought it up? You brought it up?
Yeah, there's a lot of Gilmore, like very David Gilmour-esque melodies or vocal lines. Like I can hear a lot of that, especially like this one. It feels like a kind of a floaty Gilmore line, and then there's a couple tracks at the end where I also put that down, and it's a cool blend.
Yeah.
Of that kind of like.
I
I mean,
picked
yes,
up-
they made music in the '80s, but like.
I picked up on that too because there's one song at the end that kind of reminded me of how they do like the harmonizing but not harmonizing at the same time kind of thing. So like they're singing at the same time, but the harmony isn't
Like just double tracked? Like,
sort of, but it's like two separate singers. The Pink Floyd does it on the song Echoes.
They just-
Where they're all singing at the same time, but they all started like slightly off.
Oh, it's like row,
Oh
row,
yeah,
yeah,
row,
like
row,
in a
row,
round.
row.
Yeah. But yeah, I picked up on the David Gilmour stuff too.
Yeah, when you said it, I can't remember what song it was at the show, but you said it, and I was like, yes, I like 100% Pink Floyd it, and it was yeah, it's very cool.
I mean, it is called Pink Shoes.
Okay,
You know,
I'm listening.
I did write. My note is like, it does feel like this because they're at both the pink shoes are at the end of either side. It does feel like a bit of a song to jostle you up to go to the record player and flip the record over.
Yeah, it's like an alert tone.
Like, yeah.
At
Oh,
the end,
time to go change it.
I have a-
at the end
I
of
have
the beep.
I have a question. is the song title not capitalized? Is shoes not capitalized for you on your streaming services,
Hold on,
On the
let me look.
streaming services.
or is it a YouTube thing? Or and also
No.
maybe
It's
It is
capitalized on
lowercase.
Bandcamp.
It's lowercase on Apple Music.
but Pink Shoes Part 2 is uppercase.
Yeah.
That's so,
So-
embarrassing. What a gaff.
I'll mention it here instead of in the song, but there are several on the lyrics on Apple Music. There are tons of spelling mistakes. One of them, there's like just a semicolon in the middle of a word by accident. The capitalization's kind of all over the place in the lyrics.
Yeah,
It's
even
like-
in the
Spotify does
Bandcamp,
not-
there's
yeah.
some like there's one song where the lyric is literally says the opposite of what is actually said in the song, and there's another one where like believe is believe written out.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, it could be just like you wrote the lyrics in the notes part of Logic or whatever, just copy them over.
or
The-
someone else who wrote them. Because we've had
Yeah.
ones where it was like a genius quotation.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Oh.
how did that make it to Apple Music? And it's like a sentence. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 wrote this and yada, yada.
Oh, they'll
And
have
that was
like
it. I was
I've also
okay.
seen it where they have like the line and then question mark. And,
Yeah,
like
I've
it
seen
needs
that
like it's
before.
still being worked on.
Yeah.
Well, I got the lyrics from the Bandcamp, so like their
That's
Bandcamp.
probably the freshest source.
Oh.
Yeah,
So
and like there are typos in the Bandcamp ones, so don't worry.
And
They're
the,
there.
the Spotify version doesn't include lyrics.
Yeah, I don't have lyrics on YouTube Music either.
Some of the ones on Apple Music are time synced.
For this
Most of them
song?
aren't.
For
No.
this album?
But I think one or two are time synced. I
That's
think it's
wild.
Falling Down a Well or At My Door. One of them is time synced. I
I
was
feel like
whoa.
that's how you know you've made it.
That's big artist stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
is that something you do manually? Like you can just do it yourself.
There, maybe
but then why would you do it for one of your songs or two?
because it's
you
your
just,
single,
You got to it, and then you had to do something.
or maybe
else
it's a
and you forgot.
time thing. Because if it was like maybe the single's been out for 6 months.
Like, or was it the first three songs that? Because the first
No.
three songs that were released, I think, was At Last, because that was the one Mike sent me. Foolish Man, because that was already released years before, and then was it Wrong Again? Were those the three songs?
So it's At My Door and Falling Down the Well
Okay, never
are
mind.
the only ones that are.
Well,
So it is interesting. But up next, we're talking about At Last. Back to some upbeat stuff. It's good to kind of start the second half of the album with that. It's kind of fun. Lots of acoustic and electric guitar, crispy drums, and of course, lyrics that inspire feelings about things. I love the guitar riff at 2:43. It's just so much fun. I've never really heard such a fluttery little guitar riff. It's so short, but as soon as it starts, the song fades out. I'm like,
know.
no, it's so good.
Should
And
have
then it's
opened
just
with
over,
it.
right?
The
So
question
good.
I had for the podcast in this song, for this song was, what decade is this song from?
80s.
I couldn't place a finger on it.
2024.
This is like Jack J went. He heard Every Breath You Take and wanted to make a different song.
one thing I
Word.
thought about this album is it feels like it does go back in time. It's like we started in 92 and then we end up in like 72 or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like there is a reverse chronology in terms of
Very cool.
The little baby bass line that's in the background is very of a time, and I'm trying to figure out what of the time it is.
It's very disco. It's very disco bass line. That do 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 do.
Yeah.
That like octave.
so
Yeah.
we're in 79, 80.
4 on the floor octave line. Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
I got disco vibes from the bass line.
Disco vibes.
Well, then we get something.
Yeah, and then the song ends.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
just
basically.
which is so random. But it goes into something so different. It's so much more rocky than anything else.
I like
At My Door.
The pace is so good for this.
I love it. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. This came out of nowhere. And I was like, whoa. I want like an indie rock album from this guy because it feels so different. It's got this na 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 chorus. I was like, this is awesome. Like really, really enjoyed it. There's a little electric guitar solo at 132 that's neat as well. It's backed by some fun stereo panning vocals. Again, unfortunately, the song ends pretty quickly after the solo, which I'm not a huge fan of. But I think the short length of the song works really well considering it is kind of a departure from the rest of the sound. But man, is it good.
I wrote it's fastest, probably why it's so short.
Yeah, he just sped it up.
Yeah, I just sped it up. I think it's my least favorite on the album.
Really?
Interesting thing I was thinking about. So in my basic dabblings in making music myself, I sometimes just find I'll like come up with a riff on a keyboard or whatever, and then I'll like put it in, and I'll realize like my BPM, it's like my body BPM is like 113, or it's like on the slower end, below 120, and so I'm like, that's why I like this. I feel like I vibe with this album a lot because for the most part, except for this song, it's like at my BPM rate. And my friend Mike, who introduced me to this album, I think he has a much faster BPM rate. Like he's like 160, so he's always like listening to like crazy techno beats or whatever, like very underground techno beats.
This is perfect to me. This makes me want to like dance to this. This is like immediately want to dance.
Or this song specifically at my door. So you have a bit of a faster internal BPM, I guess.
I'm grooving already.
What are you at? 130? Adam, what's your internal BPM?
Dude, I don't know. Should I?
Mine's about 90 right now. Does that count?
Oh yeah, you could go by your heartbeat.
Elevated.
Yeah, because I'm listening to this song, man. I'm grooving.
Oh.
Let's go. No.
Jamie, what's your internal BPM?
Oh, you mean like my heartbeat?
No. If you, like your music rate, like if you were to just like sit at a piano, like what BPM, or like if you're gonna make a song, like where do you find yourself gravitate towards? Because I've just noticed I go to a certain small range between like 90 and maybe 120 at the fastest.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Actually, probably
You're a bit
around
slower.
there. Yeah.
Adam's yawning, so he's at 80.
I don't know, man.
64 beats per second.
64.
Per second.
That's just 128, but felt different. So,
yeah, just slow it down. You're just half.
I'm just gonna double time it and write it like that.
So that's cheating.
That's just how it works, though.
That's cheating.
Yeah. Well, it's like, what's the difference between like, what is it like? You can be like 12/8 and 3/4 and
I know the math.
12/8 and 3/4.
No, you got to do like
12/8 and 3/2.
7/4.
I don't know the math, but 12/8 is like triple its own.
Math
Do a
ain't
5/4
here.
time signature.
12/8.
12/8 or 1/2.
12/8 and 6/4 are different time signatures, even though technically they have the same mathematical beat, but it's a description of the pulse.
Ah, that's math rock.
No, that's not. I mean, sometimes in math rock, but also like very basic time signature.
Interesting.
24/2.
That's just
24/7.
That's a weird one to do. Even
Nice.
24
Weird time
half
signatures.
notes in a bar.
Then we get My Other Mind. This one's got lots of vocal panning. I don't think it works as well as any other song because it's happening so fast and the entire time, which is where things kind of get distracting. I'd say this is my least favorite song on the album, as it feels different from everything else, which is, cool to experiment, but it experiments in a way I don't enjoy, I guess, and it falls a bit flat. But I do like the flute. It's got some tasteful flute in it.
Yeah, this one just kind of comes and goes, doesn't it?
I found it very forgettable, yes.
Comes and goes like a pop song, am I right?
Hey,
That album we did?
Yeah.
I forgot until I looked through our episode list looking for something, and I was like, come and go like a pop song. What is that? I still don't remember.
Sounds like a lyric. A
okay.
lyric by a pop artist.
What did you think of this song?
I was writing about the lyrics. I to be fair, the second side of the album has not stuck in my head as much. So like, maybe because I listened to it less. So I'm like trying to remember what the song sounds like, and I can't right now, which is very frustrating. But I wrote about like, so there's like positive vibes to the music, and then the lyrics are like, I lied, you smiled. And I don't know. There's like there's these jarring feelings described in the song. So like the attraction, the doubt, the trying to impress, the feeling like you didn't, still yet wondering what could have been long term, the very confusing aspects of relationship that I definitely relate with, is what connected with me. So I guess I connected more lyrically with the song than I did musically, but I also just like don't remember what it sounds like as we're talking about it, even though I listened to it today and yesterday.
You weren't ready for its poison kiss.
It's
you.
very true, very true.
Preach.
After that, we get Falling Down a Well, another banger.
This was another one where I said David Gilmour.
Yes.
We're gonna have to look up David Gilmour.
Yes.
Yes.
This is the one where I said it sounded like he was harmonizing with himself, which was Pink Floyd-esque. This reminded me of their song Echoes. You'd have to listen to that song to understand what I mean, though, which is listen
Well, it's
to
like
Pink Floyd's Echoes.
you're layering the vocals, but you're not being precise
Yeah,
about the harmonization. Like
that's right. Yeah,
you'll
they're not.
add some. You'll start a little bit sooner. You'll be a little bit looser with the timing,
Yeah.
or with the exact vocal presentation.
Yeah, on the Pink Floyd song, it just happens to be that every member of the band is singing, but they may not have been singing at the same time.
Yeah,
because-
I can understand what you're
Yeah.
saying. I agree. It works really well. This is one of my favorites on the album. It'll be the one last listens. I like the intro. That's also the chorus. It's just so immediately captivating. And then it goes back to the sound that the rest of the album has, which is breathy, distant vocals, catchy guitar riffs, and strings to fill out the space, which I think works, again, very, very well. There's still quite a bit of panning, but it works better with the multi-tracked vocals and the backup vocals, and the more polished sound of the instrumentation. I also like how this is one of the few songs where the lyrics don't repeat, like, at all. It doesn't feel repetitive in any way. It's not like, he did this, he did this, he did this, he's foolish, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's saying things, which, again, I don't understand. But because they're so unique, it really feels like the song is progressing, which I enjoy. I don't think that the other songs were bad with the repetition, but I think this one has a really different feel because of its forward-moving momentum, while also not being overpowering because you're trying to listen to what he's saying, because he's hard to understand in, I think, in a appealing way. But that... Oh, so good.
Yeah, great guitar line.
So good.
I wrote, it's got the chillest vibe on the album. You sink ever deeply into the cushion of your velvet couch, probably high.
This guy's never had a marijuana cigarette, but you have in spirit, let me tell you. Well,
I have had a gummy.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
I ate too much, so that's all I could think about.
Yeah, when you're holding on. We'll do that and listen to this album. You'll feel fine. You get Born Without a Smile. It's weird. I like the more psychedelic vibe, and it feels like it was recorded it live in an echoey, empty room, which I also enjoy. This is the one I'd mentioned kind of at the start where I do feel like you are a little bit rewarded for listening closer, with the little, now I know, ethereal, like whales in the background. It's a little spooky. It's neat. It has like almost like some sounds are reversed in the background as well. It's very cool. It's spooky though.
It's the melancholiest song on the whole album.
He's Born Without a Smile.
Yeah.
That baby came out straight faced.
Well, okay, so the like later songs in this one, I didn't really stand out in my initial listenings of the album because I was so high off the first couple songs.
Mm-hmm.
And so yesterday I was like, okay, I'm going to take a listen while reading the lyrics. Because I was kind of like hearing the lyrics at the concert and being like, what is this line? What are the rest? What's going on around here? And so I remember last night reading the lyrics as the song was playing and being like, Born Without a Smile. What an interesting turn of phrase. Like, what does that mean? And then today I was listening to it again and I was like, oh, depression. And so, yeah. So like, connecting with my experience of depression and just like the way the rest of the lyrics of the song go, I was like, wow, okay, I know exactly what he means.
A lot of disassociation too.
Yeah.
Like got an urge to re-enter my body. That just like feeling separate from yourself. Not a good feeling. Very, very cool to share. The guitar work is again superb in this with some fluttering riffs. Near the middle part of the song, there's like, again, I wouldn't say a solo, but just like a change up in riffs, and it sounds so good. Like, again, he or they know what they're doing with their instruments. It's so good. Long synth notes, tasteful bongo. There's also like a rubbing sound that it sounds like it's just like,
Yeah, it's like brushing a snare.
just like
Or is it
in
one
the
of those like
background.
things, those like,
It wasn't
It's not
quite
like
like a
a
rain stick.
no, okay.
But yeah, this
It's
rubbing
probably
sounds.
it's probably
in
a
the
brushed
speakers.
snare because the only other thing that's happening on the drum is like soft hipping of like
Right.
some toms.
It works
And it's just
so
foot on
well to add fullness to the space. I really enjoyed that when I was like listening. I was like, oh,
Pulling
what
a
is that?
move from the jazz masters, you know.
Dave Brubeck.
One of the jazz masters, some would say.
Miles Davis?
Absolutely not a jazz master. Why would you ever think that?
Do you have any thoughts, Adam?
This is a cool atmospheric track. It is one of the best examples of the production on this album in terms of its willingness to play with layers and tones. It's a little uneventful.
Mhm.
Again, with a lot of the tracks on this back half, I was like, cool, develop it now.
You know that picture of Dax Flame sitting on the couch, just like arms out, legs straight, staring straight ahead, just like
Yeah.
he almost looks like he's melted into the couch. That's how I feel when I've gotten too enhanced and I listen to this song. You just like sit and it like washes over you, but in a good way. It's hard to explain.
All right.
Yeah.
So you were singing the Velvet Couch on this song.
Oh.
I was, and it was good. It was a good time.
Probably high.
But you know what's even better? Pink Shoes Part 2, because it just has more of that sound. That ding, 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 ding. But if you listen really closely, again, we hear that there can be layers in production. There's like bird and nature sounds in the background.
A little bit, yeah.
It's, you know, the synth sounds kind of off. It feels like it should be ominous, but it's not. I don't know how to describe it. It's not hopeful. It's like kind of matter of fact. And I think I don't know how to, if you don't know what that means, I guess that's too bad.
I
don't know how
wrote
to describe it.
discordant.
Yeah,
Sure.
but again, that kind of feels
Yeah,
like a
I'll give you
negative
that.
connotation.
Yeah.
But it's not, which is odd.
I-
And the birds in nature kind of help enforce that.
Pink Shoes Part 1 or Part 2? Which one do you prefer? I prefer Part 1.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
prefer part one.
I think so as well. I like Part 2 where it is. I like
I
how
think
that's
it's a great way to cap off the album.
I
Oh
agree.
yeah,
I would
it's
agree
again,
with you, yeah.
it's a chime to tell you to get up and take the record off the player, or flip it over again, which I'll definitely be doing.
Wow.
Have any thoughts on the closer, Adam?
I think it's a great way to cap off the album. It's just a good atmosphere, and it kind of summarizes. It's just kind of, it's like, bye. It's a nice ending. It sounds like I'm turning off my computer.
Oh, it sounds like the startup and shutdown sound. Sure.
Yeah, so I like it. It's like I'm turning off the computer after I
Would you
leave
change
to
your
leave
startup
music.
sound to this?
That's a really long startup sound.
Well, you could truncate it. So you just have the like 2 hits.
Just
I
like
would,
my
I
car
would
lock
absolutely,
sound.
especially
Well,
because
you have a Tesla.
Yeah, my car
shamefully.
lock sound should be doom, doom.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
do 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 do.
I wish there was an unlock sound. So it could be the doom, doom, doom.
Just
doom.
reverse it or something, or use. Well, they're kind of in different. Are they in different keys? The 2 Pink Shoes. They're definitely different chords. So you could do the Pink Shoes Part 1 is the lock, and then the
There's no unlock
Have
sound.
you seen that
unfortunately.
video of the guy who changed his computer sounds to be Death Grips noises? So
Yeah.
when he plugs in his USB, he goes, yeah! And then when he unplugs, he goes, no!
that's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, hey, let's talk about the album itself. I've got it here. As Jonathan and I both own a copy. I just happened to walk into a Vancouver record store, and it was the front record just sitting there waiting. No plastic sheet or anything, just raw dog in the shelf. And I was like, well, okay, perfect. And I bought it for, I think, man, it must have been $25.
Which is how much it was at the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like album price. The front, we have a picture of a blue sky. There's some like eye buggies. You know, when you look at the sky and you see those little eye floaties, that's what it kind of looks like.
That's like a negative, like dust on a negative.
Sure. But I see it as eye floaties.
Huh?
I mean, they do look like eye floaties. It's true.
Yeah, they
Little
kind of
marks.
look like floaters. I see what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then there's a square in the sky of Jack J standing over the camera, also behind the blue sky, like
Is he
behind him.
Standing or hopping?
It looks like he's kind of hopping.
Maybe.
There's some movement.
He's
There's
wearing
some
all
motion.
white. He kind of looks like, you know, in the music videos back in the day where they're standing on a sheet of glass. So like standing with the
Yeah,
camera and like
thinking like
gyrating.
Yeah.
like Backstreet Boys, like Millennium.
Sure.
Back streets, back.
Millennium. So yeah, he's like saying that. He's wearing all white like a boy band. It's a very evocative image for some reason.
The Pitchfork review said he looked like a cult leader.
I mean, sure, he's wearing
Well,
white.
it's like the long hair, the kind of scruffy hair and the beard, which is just kind of his style.
It's a very, very blue cover. It is slightly different from the digital cover.
Really?
The eye floaties are different. And it's definitely a lot more blue. We're in warm light, so it's hard to say if that's why. But the eye floaties are different. In the top left of the digital, there's eye floaties. There's nothing on the physical one.
Oh, interesting.
So it's interesting how there's like tiny, tiny little differences.
Huh.
The back, it's the same thing, sky. But the picture of him in the center, he's standing. It looks like he's kind of falling, but he's obviously very planted. And then the lyric, I gotta see it, Adam. You're taking it. I gotta see it.
You can see
I'm
his
just
cheeks.
grabbing.
Not really. It does look like he's got a full wedgie all the way from front to back. Though.
It does look like
What?
because you're like looking up his pants. His name is written in the top left in handwriting, and then the song titles are written in handwriting. It's separated by A and B. The bottom left, it says, "We acknowledge the support of the Canada Council for the Arts," and then the Council of Arts, Mood
Go
Hut in the bottom
Canada.
right.
Shout
And there's
out
a
to the
big,
Canada Council
ugly
for the Arts.
sticker in the top right from Mood Hut. Thanks, Mood Hut. You ruined the back of
I
this.
think mine has a
And it's
sticker.
even like
mine has a
double
s-
sticker. Like
mine
they had
has
to
a
cover
sticker
it.
too.
They
even
covered
from the
another sticker with this sticker to really just make it look awful.
barcode. It.
Luckily, they put it under the blue desert handwriting, but sucks. Why
Is
do
that
you do
no?
this?
There's no stickers on other albums, or I guess because they're
Not all of them.
shrink
Usually
wrapped.
those kinds of stickers would go on the plastic wrap.
But they didn't. Yeah.
Or it's like printed on it as a barcode, or some of them have nothing because it's on the plastic. But yeah, this one, it's even just the fact that there's two. Like you can clearly see because the sticker's smaller than the other one. He's like, womp womp. The album itself is black. It's in a black jacket sleeve, whatever you call those.
Short skirt, long jacket.
It's got nice, kind of like a purpley maroon label.
Yeah, the label. Yeah.
It's all written again in handwriting, each side, each song. Like I said, I paid about $25 for it. I think it is well worth my money, especially supporting a local artist. I am more than happy to do that. Jonathan, why don't you start us off with your vinyl verdict? You can rate it out of 10 because you don't have
10
a
out of
scale.
10. I loved it.
10 out of 10?
Yeah.
Oh,
Now,
my,
I
that's
don't
a
know
first
if
out of 10.
I usually am not an album listener. I don't listen. I'm totally not the person to be on this podcast. But and so I'm wondering, like, I've been listening to this one all the way through that I'm like getting, you sort of like memorize the order of the album and you just like expect the next song.
Mhm.
I'm like getting that already with this one. And I don't think I have that with like any albums. And I also don't know if I've done that in anticipation for being on this episode, but it's definitely been great to appreciate it in that way. It is the first vinyl I've ever bought, so that definitely says something. And will I become a vinyl person from it?
You don't need any more.
No, I don't. Yeah, I have my 10 out of 10, my 10 out of 10 album. So, no, I really enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't know, like, usually Mike sends me like weird underground techno stuff. So like when he sent me this, and it was really just in the context of the album cover, which you just described, saying that he really liked it. And Mike does graphic design. I was like, what could this be? And hitting play, I was like, oh yes.
And then you changed our lives forever.
This is my vibe. And so it's been an enormous privilege to enjoy it with you guys and to be able to go to the show.
Mm-hmm. A rare show.
A rare show with a special band and all that sort of stuff. So, 10 out of 10 recommend it, would buy again.
Jamie, why don't you go ahead?
I like this album. I thought this was an interesting change of pace from some of the other stuff we've listened to this season. Like we haven't listened to a vaporwavy type album this year, and I really enjoyed some of the stuff we've listened to in years past. This one, I didn't have a lot of time to listen to it like repeatedly because you guys went to the concert on Saturday and it is now Tuesday. But I really enjoyed my time with it. I think I listened to it maybe 3 times between you guys picking it and Jonathan showing up at my front door. And I put it in the number 16 hole below our friend Patsy Cline and her greatest hits.
What does number 16 mean?
Okay,
so you have the whole list of
we have listened to
the whole every single album.
So we've
For this
listened
season,
to
yeah.
34 albums at this point.
What?
34
or 35 or
Wow.
Wow.
We have
Congrats.
33 in the list.
You missed 2.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's the order that this comes out at? Because I haven't.
33. We have 33, including
You,
last week's episode.
you're correct. I'm sorry. I
'Cause,
misread the
spoiler,
lines.
Inside Baseball, we're recording 2 episodes at once. To Pimp a Butterfly, we're recording next, but including To Pimp a Butterfly, this is 33.
Yes, excuse me. I misread the line number. So this is the one of the 33 we've listened to, Jonathan, and I put it below Patsy Cline and above L'Orange's The City Under the City. I really enjoyed it. It was a good. It's not long enough that you can never hate it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something you could put on while people were over, or you're just doing something, or it wouldn't be
Or at the office.
Yeah.
or at the office, and you wouldn't bother anyone.
100%.
Yeah.
You ready to go?
Yeah, it's a grand old album. Well, I wouldn't call it grand or old. It's a good album. It's a very chill time. Easy to throw on, easy to listen to. Production is beautiful, wonderful, and lush across the entire album. I will say that a lot of the times it has interesting ideas that it fails to develop, and I hope to see Jack J improve on his songwriting in the future, because I think that's the weakest link on the album. He's kind of got everything else about the music pretty much locked down pat. Just a little bit more improvement to stronger songwriting, and he's going to be he's gonna be one to watch for sure. I really want to see what I will definitely 100% check out whatever he does from now on because this is a really really good, great first impression.
What about have you guys hear the previous album?
No.
I
Opening
actually
the
listened on
Door?
my way here.
Yeah.
It is similar, but not this. It's not that similar.
I know
At
what you
least
mean.
The
yeah,
first
yeah.
half I
It's
listened
similar,
to, I
but
was
not the
like,
same.
Yeah, I'm like, it didn't scratch the itch I was looking for at the very least. But I haven't listened to the whole thing yet.
Oh, okay, I did like it. I definitely think Blue Desert is like better, but like I don't feel like I'm losing out on anything listening to the previous album. They like kind of are very complementary. Like one goes into the other. So for those listening, I recommend checking it out.
Where do you place this, Adam?
It goes in my number 20 spot, underneath Patsy Cline's greatest hits,
Well, that's crazy. You
And
both been on a Patsy Cline.
and above L'Orange and Stick Figures.
No
The City
way.
in the City.
That can't be true.
What do you mean?
What?
That was exactly where he put it, but it was at 16. His
Yeah.
was below Patsy and above Laurent.
Or do you guys just have like the same order, just in different spots?
That's crazy.
Some
Not
of
really.
it, Adam and I
Just
have,
that one you happen to have.
Yeah,
Adam and I have parts of our list that match up.
we both have Pink Floyd at number 1.
No.
Well, we
I haven't
did.
updated my portion of that for a while.
Don't look at it.
Oh, I won't.
That's okay.
I don't like looking at it. That's why I don't like this sheet.
Well,
because
I'll
I
give
can
you
see.
your own special page.
You don't like
Yeah.
looking at your ranking?
So we have our rankings, but it's on
Yeah.
one page. So if I look at it before we've recorded, I could see, like, because we haven't
He
recorded
gets
Timid
very
Butterfly,
offended.
I don't know where he's put it.
Jonathan, he gets so offended.
I like to be
Who's
surprised
putting-
when I get here.
You like to improvise?
No, to be surprised by like Jamie
by your
being like-
own rating.
No, by theirs,
Oh,
and I can see theirs
see.
on the same
Well,
page.
can't you just have separate sheets?
Well, that's what he's
That's
doing
what
right
I'm
now.
doing right now. Well, I'm
right
giving a
now,
separate
we're
sheet for
doing
Val because
separate
he
sheets. The
cares.
thing we should have done right from the beginning.
100%.
Right now,
Because I like to be surprised when Jamie goes, "This beautiful album that's your favorite all time gets the 90th spot," and I go, "What the hell's wrong with you, man?" But if I see on the sheet, I'm pre-mad going into the episode.
Yeah, but you thought. See, I.
But
I
are you like
I
toiling
duped
for
you.
arguments in the car? Then that'll make for a more spicy discussion.
Yeah,
I duped you because you thought that I wasn't gonna like the Coldplay album.
you didn't. It was so
Yeah,
low.
it was 30th on my spot, and then it bumped up to like the 20 something.
Yeah, whoa.
Did you change your mind in the mid episode?
Who messaged me? I think my sister messaged me, was like, "How did Adam like Engelbert more than Our Lady Peace?" I was like, I don't know.
Dude,
They're out
Our
to
Lady
lunch.
Peace is so impossibly mediocre.
Wow.
All right, let's talk about the other artists
Wow.
after I do my final verdict. You've already heard how much I've kind of showed my love.
50% of the songs on the Engelbert album I liked.
Listen,
That's
this is
more than
my
I can say
vinyl
about
verdict,
Spiritual
all right?
Machines.
I'm cutting this out. This is my final verdict. Man, this is an awesome album to listen to while under the influence of a marijuana cigarette or a good edible. But if you're not that kind of person, it's still a great album to throw on and enjoy in the background. I'm putting Blue Desert by Jack J in the 5th spot, below Being So Normal by Peach Pit, and above Parachutes by Coldplay. It's an album that I absolutely love and a vibe that I absolutely love. And it's an album I put on frequently when driving around the sun, going for walks in the rain, or I'm cooking by myself. I will always put it on. I love it. I do think it's a little rough around the edges when you listen really closely, but to me, I think it makes it feel genuine instead of everything being perfect and feeling manufactured and more like an imitation that's trying to be hard, that's trying a bit hard to be something that it's not. I definitely think that you should listen to this. I highly, highly recommend it. And I need to go listen to the entirety of his last album, as well as if anybody has suggestions, please leave them in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, send us an email or message us on Blue Sky, because I want to listen to more like this. My goodness, this scratched an itch that it's been just out of reach on my back, you know, like in that weird spot of your back where you can't. That's where this itch for this music has been, and it scratches it. And I listen to it so often. I've really enjoyed this album since release. Great job, Jack. Please come on that podcast. We'd love to talk to you about different music and what inspired you. But now it's time for some aftercare.
What?
Go
Jonathan, what are other albums you think you'd want on vinyl?
Well, okay. So when you guys were talking about like me becoming a guest on Vinyl Verdict, I remember I was like, the books. Do you remember the books?
Oh, I love the books.
Adam loves the
Love
books.
You love the books?
Yeah, the Lemon and Pink is amazing.
Oh, every album's of theirs is amazing. I was thinking
Yeah.
probably the later one, like The Way Out, was gonna
Also
be-
very, very good.
Um.
I might bring the Lemon and Pink on. You can come back.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely come for that because I always put the books on for people and they're like, what? Especially I go crazy. Like I once went to, I like met a new friend, like a friend of a friend. We were hanging out at their house and we've been hanging out ever since. But like it was the first time I was at their house and my friend who was introducing them hadn't arrived yet. So they're like, what are you into? And I'm like, I'm gonna put on the books. A Cold Freezing Night. Let's watch this video. And they were very shocked by that. Does anyone know about A Cold Freezing Night? You know, A Cold Freezing Night. Great song. Look it up.
What
It's
makes that
interesting.
so surprising, though? What's the
Well,
context of it? Is that
I don't
good?
know why. I'm just telling you a story.
Okay.
So,
Let the
but that's
man-
what I'm thinking. The
let the
album
man
we should.
yap.
But if you do the Lemon and Pink, we'll do that. But the Way Out's weirder.
The one I own is the lemon and pink.
Oh,
The lemon
yeah.
of pink.
Well, because Jake was looking at buying the Way Out, but I don't think.
Yeah, I
it
was looking to buy one so that
expensive.
he can come onto the podcast, but it was, I can't remember if it was expensive or just hard to
It
get.
was hard to,
or-
it was hard to get.
Yeah, I got a Vinyl Me Please pressing of the lemon of pink.
I was very disappointed. I learned that they had performed in Vancouver like a week after they performed, so I missed the concert, and then they broke up.
Oh,
So yeah,
That is the worst. I've done that before. I'm like, oh man, that was me with Nick Hakim. Learned about Nick Hakim, was like, I love this. I got to see him in concert. It was like, oh, he's in Vancouver last month. I'm
yeah,
like, well, I guess I'll wait
Yeah.
an
the
indeterminate amount
worst
of time.
feeling. It's interesting you talk about like music to kind of bake out to, because I don't.
I
Other
like
than
that,
the
bake
gummies, I tend to find myself listening to that type of music. Like I talked about, my BPM is in that sort of range, so I'm like, what could I send Jake?
Mhm.
And especially like I'll look at the comments of the videos on YouTube, and they'll be
What'll
like,
make
I love
him
being
wig
high to the
out?
song- to all the songs I listen to. So that's pretty nifty. Yeah. So what would I bring? Well, obviously the books.
Are there other albums that you like listening to in full as somebody who doesn't listen to albums in
Oh.
full?
Portishead.
But I mean, I did listen to the album in full. That was pretty good. I'd listen to that. Yeah. I mean, I do like kind of trip hop, like late 90s, early 2000s kind of.
Would you buy a
down-tempo.
bunch of Enya albums?
No, you know what? Enya, I had this like weird relationship with Enya because we had to do like slideshows in Tech 7, grade 7 tech class, and everyone used Enya to like be the like ambient backing for their like dramatic slideshow about floods. I think mine was on waves or something
Jonathan,
like
you're so old.
that. I know.
All the kids
PowerPoint.
chose Enya.
Well, it was. To be fair, the tech teacher supplied this the music, so everyone just
Your tech
chose
teacher
that.
loved Enya.
It was just the most dramatic for yeah. I mine was like on water. I remember having water pictures. I don't know. Anyway, so
They used to play the SimCity soundtrack at the pool.
they did.
In my
Oh,
community
that's
center.
dope.
Yeah,
You
it was
played it?
so good.
Or
No,
they-
no, like the pool, the
That is
community center played it
awesome.
as
You're
the audio
kidding.
at the pool. It was such good.
How the
It's a really good pool music.
which pool was that? And was it 3000 or SimCity 4? Honestly,
No, he's talking about The
It's
Sims.
3000.
Oh,
no,
The
no,
Sims?
SimCity.
Oh, SimCity. Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
3000.
It was
no, the
3000?
SimCity music would be ridiculous to play.
No, the Sims, yeah, the Sims music's a little more ridiculous, but the SimCity soundtrack, especially 3004.
Yeah, both are
those
excellent.
I would. I mean, honestly,
Yes.
I would bring that or the Need for Speed soundtrack.
Oh,
Let's
you
go.
love
Let's
the
go
Need for
weird.
Speed soundtrack.
Yeah, early Need for Speed soundtracks. Let's go.
Sim Golf.
But they're not on vinyl. Sim Golf. I don't know. I never played that one.
It was a weird combination. It was a Sid Meier game, but you could import your Sims into it
What?
from Sims 1.
They had this weird thing where you could import your Sims into SimCity 4 too. Even
Yeah.
though, like the Sims in the era were like already like pre-drawn. Like there was no facial customization. It was like 18 options of
Yeah.
face and then a couple different clothing options. That was it. So it's pretty funny that you would want to even do that.
Oh, you could put Bob Newby into your
And
SimCity?
You could move Bob Newby and it would just be a picture. It would just be his head picture, like that you would click on. That would just be it. That's all they imported because you can't actually see the Sim in SimCity.
No.
And then if you had the Rush Hour, you could put them in a car and drive around.
Well, that's
And the Rush
yeah.
Hour soundtrack also very good, but not on vinyl, unfortunately.
yeah,
Not yet.
yeah. I was gonna say.
Oh, I wish they
The
do
Tony
have
Hawk one, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 ended up getting released on vinyl.
really.
I regret not buying it.
Superman is
alas.
on it. Yeah,
Alas.
I think there's a Devo song on that album. And there's definitely that Millencolin song.
You love Devo.
Dude, you know who loves Devo? Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk loves Devo.
That's
okay,
the title of this
here's another
episode.
question. So
Tony
like,
Hawk loves Devo. Jack J. Blue Desert.
So it sounds yeah. It sounds like the Tony Hawk soundtrack though was like licensed music.
yeah.
Whereas
100%.
like the Sims or SimCity 3000, SimCity 4, like that was like music made in house. Or my favorite Need for Speed, the classic Need for Speeds 1 to 4. Actually, it was basically 1 to 6, I think. Those were like done also in house. And it
It's
Do,
like-
do you frequent the
like
like rally D&B
it is in that. It's totally that
like
era.
those playlists?
Yeah,
There's
yeah, it's
lots of playlists
totally
on
there.
YouTube, but there's also like there's one that's called Peter's Domain that's got like
I haven't heard
atmospheric
that
drum
one.
and bass, and
I-
it's like
Hey, Peter.
yeah, no, it's
Get out
like
of
it's
the
like
domain.
it's like Peter dressed up as Link and he's dancing in like different places from Majora's Mask.
I do know what you're talking
I've not
about.
seen that.
Okay,
You're
I'll
gonna have to
send-
send
I'll
that
send
to
you
me
some
because
stuff.
I'm really curious about that. No, I mean I've scoured very hard to find the like Need for Speed 3 soundtrack Red Book, disc. And it's good stuff. I mean, I love that stuff when I was a kid. That's like what got me into like electronic music.
If you just own the PlayStation version, can you just put the disc into a CD player and get the files?
You might
up?
be able to. I do own the PlayStation version, but it's in storage. I know that they compress the music quite a bit. So, but they had released a Red Book version. So they actually released an album of the soundtrack, or they made one. I don't know if it ever got sold. It's online. You can grab a hold of it, especially Need for Speed 3
You can
is a
just
great
put a
one.
PlayStation 2 disc into a.
PlayStation 1
You
disc.
can put a PlayStation 1 disc into a CD player.
So, I'm
Yeah.
sure it depends on the game.
Okay, because
One will be
It's
the
not like
data. One will be the data track, and it won't come up as anything. But some of them will just be the CD uncompressed CD audio files.
have you seen the what happens when you insert a Sega CD or a CD into a Sega CD, like a music compact disc into the console, the Sega CD?
Yeah.
No.
Oh my
What
god,
the
it's
hell
the
are you
most
talking about?
nightmare-inducing sound.
So it does it try and read the
It has,
digital
like, an
audio?
error. No, it has
data?
it has like an error that tells you that it's the wrong disc.
Oh, but it's a horrible error sound
It is
that they made for that. Don't do this.
truly one of
That
the
is
most...
my favorite YouTube poll I've actually gone down before, which is fake errors in games. And one of them is like putting discs in computers and getting these fake error screens and how terrifying they are.
Fake? Like they legitimately made a fake error.
Yeah. There's
Well,
like
the Sega
creators
CD
who
one's
make
real.
fake errors. And I that's my favorite thing is seeing the creativity of like these fake or anti-piracy screens. That's
Oh,
another great fake thing. I don't know how we got here from music, but fantastic.
You wouldn't download a car.
But if you liked this episode, stay tuned next week when we have another episode.
Wow.
And that's
What?
where I'm choosing
You-
the legendary debut and only album. I hit my mic. The debut and only album from the legendary Pez, the album Watouche. If you haven't heard of that, maybe you've heard of the band that they turned into, which is why it was their only album, Billy Talent, legendary Canadian punk rock band. And if you haven't heard of them, tune in anyways because you're going to learn something new and listen to some ska music.
wow, sounds great.
You're going to listen, right, Jonathan?
You betcha.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you're part
Subscribing on
of,
Apple
you're part of the
Podcasts
Vinyl
right
Record
now.
Book Club.
Mm-hmm.
Record Book Club?
Yeah. I think you just call it a record club.
That is what this is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a listening lot, you know?
Yeah.
It's better than a book club because I would never keep up. I could never keep up in a book club.
What
You're
about
getting there.
Oprah's book club?
Man, if
Definitely
if
not.
book clubs were doing shorter books,
Well, hey, where can we keep up with you, Jonathan?
Oh, geez. I mean, I don't have Instagram because I don't like Mark Zuckerberg.
Amen.
But I am on Blue Sky. I'm going to put that at the top. Oh, golly.
so you do like the Jack,
Oh, he left.
the
Jack
Twitter
Dorsey's
guy,
not
the
a
Twitter
part
guy
of-
who made
Yeah.
Jack
Is
Dorsey,
he?
who made
Yeah.
Jack
Jack Dorsey made Blue Sky?
I
Yeah.
think so.
He left Blue
Yeah.
Sky
Really?
because
Black-
he thought it wasn't conservative enough anymore.
Black
Dorsey.
Oh
he
my
made
God.
it. Dorsey made Blue Sky.
Yeah, but yeah,
no
he's
idea.
not
He owns
involved
it
anymore.
It's
No, he's
it's
not
at
involved.
horsepower.bluesky.
You gotta join Mastodon. Join the
And it's
Fediverse.
horsepower spelt out. I managed to get that. Thank goodness.
Nice.
I am also on Twitter and it's horsepower, but it's PWR at the end. I got rid of the vowels there because some dead man has the full horsepower.
Got it.
But obviously, we all want to leave Twitter, so please leave Twitter. And who knows where I'll be next? That's the big question.
Well, that is exciting. Thank you for coming on the episode. Again, Jonathan Horst, Horsepower, Jack J, Blue Desert, Pez, Watouche, Jamie, Adam Bell. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, give us 5 stars. Leave stuff in the comments. We love reading it. Jamie always sends us an excited little message when someone sends us an excited little message.
Yeah.
Aw.
And keep watching on YouTube. That's kind of taken off. I like that.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.